Not gonna lie, in preparation for this episode, I was watching the new Bert Kreischer special, Lucky, on Netflix, and I had to finish watching it from the toilet so I didn't pee my pants. And that is on laughing too hard and being 39 weeks pregnant. Let's get this podcast started. Welcome back to Not Gonna Lie. Oh, wait, I can't even say wave. I can't even say wave. I can't even say wave. Wave. Welcome back to Not Gonna Lie, a Wave original brought to you by Lovevery. I'm your host, Kylie Kelsey, Philly food scene hype woman, occasional clapbacker, and I've officially started maternity leave. If you watched last week's postpartum episode or Doomscrolled your social media platform of choice, you're probably aware I had the baby. Speaking of, what did we end up naming her? Is she another clone of Jason? And how much did she weigh? Because that could get dicey. I wonder if she dethroned Ellie. I hope not. I feel like as a middle child, you should at least be able to be the biggest. Have something. I ask because in the spirit of complete honesty, as always, this intro I'm currently taping is pre-recorded. I'm actually 39 weeks pregnant at the time of this taping. This is my belly. You can't even see it that way. Hold on, microphone. Do you see the turkey timer is out? You see that? That's your belly button when when you're making a turkey on Thanksgiving and the little plastic timer pops up to say it's done. So get the fuck out. We're ready. I think. But even though this is pre-recorded, I can tell you a few things about what my life is very likely looking like right now. Probably not sleeping that much. Probably have to change my shirt a lot. If you know, you know. Now, I might be on maternity leave, but I couldn't leave the real ones hanging. So we've got a great show for you guys. You can tell I'm still pregnant because trying to stand up to show you my belly got me out of breath. Coming up on this special maternity leave episode, I doomscrolled my way to one of the most Philly food combinations I've ever laid my eyes on, and I've got some thoughts. Then you're going to hear my conversation with a friend of mine and another woman I have no business speaking to. Comedy producer, mother, and host of the hit podcast, Wife of the Party, LeeAnn Kreischer. But before you hear that conversation, I figured I'd do a maternity leave edition of Ask Me Some Things. Because Ask Me Anything needed some boundaries. Because you couldn't control yourselves. From Tristan on TikTok, Kylie, you got Michelle? How do you keep your cool? My jaw would be an anvil on the floor. First of all, Tristan, the editing team behind Not Gonna Lie did me a solid. I had to wipe my upper lip sweat multiple times. Okay? A lot of fans were shocked that we got Michelle Obama. Girl, same. Guys, I still can't wrap my head around it. The fact that I fear that you guys think that I'm kidding when I emphasize that I have no business speaking to the people that I get to speak to. Sometimes I genuinely think I'm living in an alternate universe of like, is this happening? I was very nervous to speak to Mrs. Obama. I am so incredibly grateful that she was able to come on. I absolutely love how excited people were in the comments on things because it validated how hype I was about getting that opportunity. It's so much fun to get to do things that are full circle. And it's so cool to get to speak to people that you never thought in your entire lifetime that you would get to speak to. And it just keeps happening. We just keep talking to people that I'm like, why? I don't know why you agreed to this, but I am so happy you did. So I just want to be clear. I was not cool. I had full pit sweat like I usually do when I interview people because what the fuck are we even doing? But for Michelle, it hit a new level because for Mrs. Obama, I was rocking upper lip sweat. So cute. It's a cute little thing that happened. Just me and my sweat stash. Next from Raina on YouTube. How do you and people feel about siblings getting a little gift or something when a new baby comes into the family? Thoughts? I know that I shared a very strong opinion about birthday gifts and making sure that only the birthday person receives birthday gifts on that day. I stand by that, even though some of you strongly disagreed. That's okay. I can live with that. I do think that it's lovely to give siblings a gift when a new baby comes home. I think because mom specifically is going to be so tied up. And I think that it's okay to help them feel special. Yes, they are getting a sibling, and yes, that is exciting, but everybody knows that for a 5, a 4, and a 2-year-old, what's a newborn baby doing? Nothing. The answer is nothing. She will arrive, she will eat, she will poop, she will sleep, she will cry. That's it. I don't know. I feel like maybe something simple like new coloring books that they can do quietly at the table. Set yourself up for success with this gift. That does it for Ask Me Some Things. Next up, my TikTok algorithm just hit me with a ridiculous, but possibly the most Philly combination of foods I've seen in a while. Let's get into it in Doomscroll of the week. Queen Emma, can we show the real ones what I'm talking about?
My man thinks this is weird. This is a water ice, and this is a pretzel.
Oh, girl, say less. That is a Philadelphia version of French fries in a milkshake, and I stand by that. I can honestly say that I do not do the dipping, but if you ask Big Ed McDevitt if you should have water ice with a soft pretzel, he will say every time, without fail. He used to, if I'm not mistaken, Dad, don't quote me on this. He used to, when he was little, as like a little entrepreneur move, he would go to his uncle's pretzel shop, get pretzels in his wagon, go to the water ice store, get tubs of water ice, and then go down to the factories in Kensington and dish it up. But you're supposed to have soft pretzels with water ice. Everybody knows that. Sweet and salty, guys. Sweet and salty that's what it is. That's why this is the most Philly, because she just showed you the Philly version of French fries milkshake. I'm just letting you know. Queen Emma wants to know what the weirdest food combination I do is. That's a great question. I don't know that I have one. Hold on, this is going to be one of those, like, you're going to put the clock on the screen. I have to have something. I wish you had asked me what my sister's weird food combos are. There was a period of time where my sister, Emma just wrote into the rundown, what are your sister's weird food combos? I've always been a very standard food combination person. I would say maybe the weirdest one I do on a semi-regular basis is apples and cheese. But again, it's that sweet and salty. It's like your own cheese board. My sister went through a phase where we thought she needed to be, this is so, Aubrey, I'm so sorry. Is this the episode where I out my sister? My sister likes to pretend like we're not related. My sister likes to pretend like we're not related. I think just so that she doesn't get dragged into getting asked for signed items from my husband, which, like, dude, I get it. I do not blame you. But my sister, she went through a phase where my mom thought that she needed to be tested for vitamin deficiencies because of the weird shit she would eat. So her most common was that she would slice an avocado in half and put yellow mustard on it and eat it with a spoon. The other one that I found just one step too far was she would open up a can of red kidney beans, rinse them, and then pour balsamic vinegar on them. And again, eat it with a spoon. So, yeah, Aub is good for an odd combo. It was not me. Off of weird combinations, my favorite Philly specialty, aside from a cheesesteak, we will regularly still go to Stock's Bakery for pound cake. If you don't know about Stock's, you should. It's a that might be my favorite Philadelphia specialty. We also used to go to Swayaki's for kibasi. We should one day do a segment on the pronunciation of Philadelphia things, because Swayaki's Polish Meats is on Salmon Street, Salmon, as in the fish, but it is Salmon Street. It is one of the biggest arguments of our marriage. And when Jason didn't believe me that it's pronounced Salmon Street, there's a whole thing. Cheesesteaks and the pronunciation of Philadelphia streets are two of the biggest arguments of which is honestly not that. This is pretty. I feel pretty good about that. That's it for Doomscroll of the week. Before we roll my conversation with LeeAnn Kreischer, it's a tradition as old as time on this show. The toss to the ad read number 1. Ladies and gentlemen, Lovevery. I'm very excited to introduce the real ones to a brand we've been fans of for a while now in our house, Lovevery. We have been subscribed to their play kits since Wyatt was a baby, and it was like a cheat code for what toys we should be having at certain developmental milestones. This is the type of box that really lights our fire. I've actually got one for Ellie's age range. Should we dive in? A little NGL unboxing. Now, one of the things that have stayed tried and true in our house are all of the books that come along. We still hear about Zoe's bath time all the time. If you know, you know. There are also these amazing little booklets in here that tell you how to play with each of the toys. One of the other toys in this box, in this specific play kit, is puppets. And not only are there multiple puppets, but you get to choose their emotion. This is Bennett right now, looking very wary about getting a baby sister. We can also just feel pure bliss when we're not pregnant anymore. Explore the play kits at lovevery.com. That's LOVEVERY.com. NGL listeners can get an exclusive discount, bargain shop, on their first subscription order by entering code Kylie at checkout. She's a writer, producer, the COO of Birdie Boy Productions. She's also a fellow mom, host of the hit podcast Wife of the Party. And we both have often shirtless husbands who dragged us into this mess. LeeAnn Kreischer, welcome to Not Gonna Lie.
Thank you. It's so nice to see you again.
I'm so happy to have you. I can't thank you enough for joining me today. I've had the absolute pleasure of running into you 2 years in a row now at the Super Bowl party for the other podcast around here. It is a delight every single time. This time I was hiding in the back room. And I think I told you when I came out, because someone came back and was like, oh, LeeAnn's here. And I was like, okay, I'll come out.
Oh, that's so sweet.
Well, because I just, pregnant in heels. I was like, I'm doing too much.
Yes, it was a lot. It's a big fun parties.
Yes.
So I don't blame you, especially pregnant. I'd be like, I'll be on the stool in the corner.
Well, that's what I was doing.
Yeah,
and then I was like, you know what? I'll always come out for that. And then I Irish goodbyed the shit out of that place. I Irish goodbyed so hard. Someone saw me go back and pick up my purse. And when I was walking out, I was like, you saw nothing. And they were like, I saw nothing. And I just kept walking.
I think we were on our way to an Irish goodbye, but Bert caught Jason at the door. So we got to say goodbye to him on the way out.
Okay. Well, you half-assed your Irish goodbye.
We almost made it. I almost made it.
I mentioned in your intro, both of our husbands have been known to go shirtless.
Mm-hmm. Once or twice.
Your husband, Bert, definitely started this trend a long time ago. And to be clear, Jason has given him credit to him. And then I think also on the podcast as well, because he wants to make it so clear that like, this is Bert's thing. I think he felt a little guilty after the Bills game when he went shirtless in the suite, and then sort of people were making the comparison. Jason was like, no, I can't own this shtick. This is Bert's.
Is it though, really? I think it's just every man in the South.
Is that what it is?
Yeah. I think you guys just aren't familiar with Southern folks so much.
No.
Yeah, shirtless is pretty common. People ask me all the time, what do you think about him being shirtless? I'm like, I didn't really notice. I mean, it's just kind of no shoes, no shirt.
That's what happens when people ask me about the flip-flops. I'm like, I didn't register. I don't know. It's just like him in his natural habitat.
Same.
In Bert's new stand-up special, Lucky, which you produced, he starts off by talking about how much weight he's lost.
Yeah.
I am on record saying that if Jason were to ever get a six-pack, I would not be pleased. How do you feel about this?
Well, I feel kind of similarly. Clearly, I have a type. He's my physical body type is like a little barrel chesty, a little beer belly. I don't like skinny lean guys. I don't think I ever have. I've always liked like a big bear.
Sure.
And my dad's not a big bear. My dad's a little teeny tiny, like 145-pound guy. But yeah, I'm not into a six-pack for Bert. Here's a funny story. When we were first dating, Bert shaved his entire body. And I was like, yeah, no, that you don't have the body type for that. You actually can't do that. Like, that's not your gig.
You're supposed to be a little fuzzy, sir.
Yeah, that's not your gig, man. Look in the mirror. A shaved man with your body shape is just wrong. Is incorrect.
Yeah.
So he never did it again. But he was shaving his whole body before I met him. And then when we started dating, I was like, you got to just pump the brakes. You know who you are.
Yes.
Like, you're just a big fella. And I love that. I think it's super sexy.
It is. It's the best body type out there. I have to ask you, we spoke about this before we actually hopped on the record here. But the accent that he does when he imitates you.
He lays it on thick.
How do you feel about him imitating your accent and specifically going as aggressively as he does?
Well, I don't like it, but I have lost that battle. Obviously, since it's on camera. So, I mean, it's on record forever. I don't like it because I'm not really like that. But also, not everything he talks about is true. So at a certain point, what I have to do and what I've always done for every special is that I go, well, only I know is true, or our family. And that's really all that matters. And because I wrote comedy before I met Bert, that art form to me is more important than anything else, really, as long as we're not really going over a boundary of privacy that we're not comfortable with. So when I sat in the audience and listened to everybody really enjoy him laying it on thick, I go, you know what? It's pretty easy to listen to how I actually talk. I have a podcast. If you want to see what I really sound like, you can tune in and hear me I do have a Southern accent, but I for sure don't sound like his imitation. So I just had to kind of treat it as an art form and just disconnect. Because in the beginning, I was like, you have to stop doing that. Like
Right.
you are misrepresenting me so profoundly. But I also don't have two cousins who are married, you know? I mean, I did say to him, they ain't blood, but it was relative to something else. And I did, everything happened except my two cousins are not married. Although I do have cousins that are married, but they don't have a kid. So anyway, he just kind of mushes all this super deep redneck stuff together. And at a certain point, I had to let go because it was really funny.
Right.
And that's the point. It's entertainment. It's really funny. Not all of it's true. Most of it's true, but not all of it.
I do think there's something to be said about like knowing in your own house like what the truth is, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like knowing behind closed doors. I do not that it's like I used to listen to sports radio when Jason was still playing. Mm-hmm. And they would talk about all this speculation about like what's happening in the locker room, what's happening here, what's happening there. And I would be like, oh, we talked about that yesterday. You're wrong.
Totally. I feel that way too. I feel if you invest where you should be invested. You should not be invested in sports radio. You should be invested in the conversation you had with your husband.
That's it.
So I'm not invested in the comments people put on Bert or or anybody's social media. I'm invested in what happens between me and Bert in the progress of our life. That's all that really matters.
Is there ever something where you're just like, that's where I draw the line?
Sort of. So like in this last special, in the very top of the special, he talks about me going through menopause. Mm-hmm. And he had done it so much that his tone shifted and it started sounding really mean. Like he didn't like me. Like he was putting me down.
Sure.
And I gave him this note. I saw it a couple times and it kind of stayed that way a couple times. And I was like, it doesn't sound like you love your wife. It sounds like you borderline like are intolerant of her or don't like her. So I don't like that. You need to find the smile. Where's the rascal? Where's the isn't she the cutest? Like, look at that big wart on her nose. Isn't it so cute? You got to find that piece. And he did. And when he shifted, I was like, then I'm fine with you talking about all of it.
Right.
So that tone and intention is just as important as the words you say or the story.
Absolutely.
The feeling behind it matters. And I love that he took that note. Other than that, I don't know that I've had any content that's been off limits. He just kind of naturally knows what's really off limits. So we've never really had an issue.
Now, speaking of your daughters and really like drawing that line, is there anything that Bert has told stories of or made jokes of that the girls have said like that's off limits?
Yes. So typically, we let them watch the special before we send in the final cut to Netflix. And only one time, Isla was like, you can't put that joke in. And we took it out. So I think the interesting thing about Bert's journey as a comic is that when he started getting a little bit of success, there was no Instagram. So when he started talking about our kids, it was very much in a vacuum, right? It was just, if you were at the live show, that's
you
what
heard it.
Yes.
Yep.
And so he would do the special and put those things on the special. But we also thought, well, everyone's already heard it. He doesn't have this huge fan base. We really, when you start out as an artist, you don't really know if you're going to become this successful, which we're very blessed that he has. So telling stories about our family, for one, is his life. It's his world. The three of us are like his world. So that's what he's inspired to talk about. Now, as the girls have gotten older and retroactively look back at what he's talked about, they're like, yeah, I don't know if that was cool. I don't think that was cool. You exposed us to the whole world without our permission. And we agree, actually. I totally agree. But at the same time, we didn't really know where we were going, and social media didn't exist at all, like Facebook, but that's it. So if we were to do it over again, I don't know how we would have done it differently, because I have another opinion about that too. Bert did this great story about Isla's period party. Isla, when she got her period, wanted a period party. Her sister fell apart and was like, I'm not ready to be a big girl. I don't want this. And Isla was like, we are throwing down. I need a red velvet cake. I need pasta with marinara sauce. I need all the adults to have red wine. I need everyone to come dressed in red. And she wanted to make her red velvet cake. She iced it and she named it Jason because she got her period on Friday the 13th. Shut up. That is my daughter, and that is a true story.
That is a second kid. That is
insane,
second
right?
kid. Oh my
It's insane. So Bert wasn't even planning on talking about that. And then he had to do Conan. And he just started talking about it on Conan because he, never meets a stranger and he's a complete open book. And all of a sudden, in the aftermath, he went, oh, wait, I talked about Isla's period on Conan. Oh, that might not have been a great plan. And then, the toothpaste out of the tube at that point.
Right.
So how do you put it back in the tube? You can't really put it back in the tube. And the amount of emails Bert got from that one story, like now I have something of humor to talk to my daughter about. Girl dads, when she gets her period. We're throwing a period party for our daughter. This is so inspiring that your household can talk about these things so openly. I am so amazed that a dad is this supportive of his daughter getting her period. We threw the period party. And she, in fact, invited 6 girls and 2 boys and didn't tell the boys what the party was about and revealed it when she cut the cake. This is for my period. And the 2 boys were like, what? It was brilliant and amazing.
Now you're also the COO of yours and Bert's production company. I read a quote where you said, I had no idea how to be a COO. Girl Scout troop leader, sure, but COO? First of all, how long were you a Girl Scout troop leader?
I'm still a Girl Scout troop leader. This
That's
is my
incredible.
14th year. I started a Girl Scout troop when Isla was in kindergarten. I recognized in preschool that Isla had some learning differences. She was quite significantly dyslexic, but I knew she was super smart. So by the middle of kindergarten, she still didn't have her ABCs and was the only kid in class who didn't have her ABCs. And I went, I need to do something that levels the playing field here. I'm going to start a Girl Scout troop and I'm going to invite all of the super smart kids in kindergarten and mine. And I'm going to find 2 other moms that I want to do this with, that I want to spend time with. And that's how I'm going to do this troop. And we still have that troop. Isla was a Girl Scout from kindergarten until she graduated high school. And Georgia was a Girl Scout from 2nd grade until she graduated high school. We kept adding different age groups. So even though both my kids are in college, I have my last group. I have 2 groups now. I have a group of seniors in high school and a group of juniors in high school, and then I'm retiring. But I think that running that troop in a conscientious way, so we didn't just take what the Girl Scouts gave us and this, just kind of point and shoot.
Mindlessly follow. Yeah.
We did not do that. We took what they gave us and went, how do we creatively apply this to our group? What of this does our group need? And what do they already know? I don't need to teach them something they already know. There's a lot of STEM stuff in Girl Scouts. They get so much STEM in school. We don't need that kind of STEM. So how do we do STEM a different way? I kind of took that and applied it to running this company. I don't even have a college degree. So I came here just rolling up my sleeves going, well, how would you manage this? It can't be that different from managing a Girl Scouts. I mean, I had 25 girls with 25 different personalities. And I have 13 employees now with 13 different personalities. So it's not really as different as you might think. The analytics piece of like reading financial reports and all that, I already knew how to do that from just running a household. So I think sometimes when we're presented with a challenge that seems really out of our depth, if you really boil down what the basic simple things are in that challenge, you'll find that you maybe already have the skill set. It just looks a little different. The fancy words that make COO seem huge, when you take it away, it's really personality management and workflow management and financial flow management. And if you run an appropriate household, you're already a COO.
Sure. I mean, ultimately you're using like basic leadership skills, right? Like learning, like knowing how to speak to each person, knowing how to effectively apply their strengths and weaknesses. And that's incredible. I think it is, I mean, not that you need the props, but it's such a mom win to hear that you saw Isla struggling with dyslexia and decided that there were other ways that she could excel, and to be able to show her that and to be actively involved in helping her get there and see that. I think one of the best things we can do, especially for young girls, is to build their confidence. And so to know that like she was dealing with something that was not a choice, and extremely difficult to navigate, that you were able to flex into that space and say like, this is how we can show you all of these other things that you can be amazing at. It doesn't make you dumb or anything else that your brain works this way, because your brain can then apply it to other things and hands-on activities, things that don't involve sitting down and trying to read a novel. The Play Kits by Lovevery are designed to give parents more confidence. The Play Guides and Lovevery app make the job of parenting easier with tons of activity ideas and expert guidance. I also love gifting Lovevery Play Kits whenever my friends have babies. It is like a cheat code. You just get exactly what you're supposed to have. They are well built and last the test of time. We've had Play Kit items that all three of our girls have so far played with, and I'm assuming the fourth will also enjoy. Another thing that makes them such a good gift, they're made of safe and sustainable materials. That's right. Everything is built to last with premium, durable materials, and they're good for your child and good for the planet. Can always get down with that. Give your child what they need for long-lasting learning and fun as they grow. Explore the Play Kits at lovevery.com. That's LOVEVERY.com. NGL listeners can get an exclusive discount on their first subscription order by entering code Kylie at checkout. Now, let's talk about your career. You are a podcast host. I love Wife of the Party, especially just the name in general. I feel like it's like the perfect summary. You've been doing the show since 2018. Is that right?
That's right.
And I always say that I love to hide in a corner, but here I am doing this now. So did you always want to be in front of the camera?
No, I have a weird journey. I think for a minute, I thought I wanted to be an actress until I tried to be an actress, and then I did not want to be an actress. I figured out I much preferred analyzing what was going on in a script. So I started writing screenplays. I wrote 8 screenplays. 4 of them were optioned. 1 was made. I got hired to like adapt a novel into a feature film. All this before I met Bert. And so I always have loved that. And that kind of creative exploration of relationships and dialogue. I've always loved that. I've always been a big reader. But I stopped writing when I got pregnant. I actually had a big project I was about to go into production on. I got pregnant with Georgia and I got very morning sick. I was morning sick for like 6 months. And then Bert started touring when George was 3 days old. And we were super broke. And I was like managing an apartment building so that we could have free rent and health insurance and just getting us from A to B. And I put all of that kind of aside and started just helping Bert with his creative process, which I really enjoyed. But at a certain point, I started seeing my future without my kids about 6-7 years ago. I was like, well, they're leaving. My life just can't be all about Bert because that's not good for either one of us. It's not good for Bert either. So what can I do for myself? And Bert said, you should start a podcast. I was like, nobody wants to hear what I have to say. Why would anybody want to hear what I have to say?
Jason's
I don't have anything to say. That's the dumbest thing I've ever heard. And he goes, well, don't worry about who listens to it. Worry about how it makes you feel and talk about things you're interested in and just have your friends and have fun. And don't think of it as like, I am going to now become a personality. Think of it as a creative outlet because you are so creative.
I think the fact that you've been doing it for this long, I think that clearly exhibits that people are enjoying the authenticity of the conversations you're having. Because I think that's always, I think that when it's clear that it is an honest and authentic conversation, that people lean into that no matter what. Even if it's not something that they agree with or like would normally listen to or talk about. I think that a lot of people just really can appreciate that on a deeper level.
Well, authenticity really is the goal, right? For your life, for everything you do in life, it should be authentically yours. You are an incredibly authentic person. And that's why your podcast is so successful right out of the gate. You are very much who you are.
Well, I always say you get what you get. I don't have anything else to offer you.
Girl, I don't have time to keep up with some other persona.
That's it. Right? That's it. I can't, I don't have anything else. This is what I got. To lighten the mood though, I would love to play a quick game with you. We call it, Is It True? And we'll specifically lean this one into your early relationship.
Can I guess the questions? Did Bert really shave his body? Yes. Did you really meet in a bowling alley? Yes. What are the questions?
Did Bert make you a mixtape?
Oh my God, yes. We didn't talk about the 4 days I asked for a break. Okay. We went to dinner with all my girlfriends and Bert made an actual ass of himself to the point where I was like, I don't know if I can date you. Like, I need 4 days. Like, what the fuck are you talking about? And who are you? Has someone just possessed your body? I cannot even be around you. So I just simply said to him, I just need a couple days. Dude stopped eating, started drinking Slim Fast, and showering all day and crying in the shower. So after 2 days, he wrote me a love letter and made a mixtape and put it on the windshield of my car. And then left me a voicemail saying, I've left a mixtape on the windshield of your car. And so in the love letter, all this feelings poured out. And then in some part of the letter, he was like, track 8 is exactly how I feel. Now, my question is, why was it track 8? Did he need me to understand 1 through 7 before I got to 8? Was this like a preamble?
1 through 7 was the soundtrack you were supposed to be listening to while you read the beginning.
I guess. I don't know. But I was like, why so complicated? Just put it to number 1. So I listened to track 8 and it was so clearly an apology for his behavior. It was a Coldplay song called Warning Signs. And if I play it today, he will immediately start sobbing because it triggers the 4 days that I left him, right? That he suffered drinking Slim Fast, waiting for me to return. But I listened to the words of that song and it's basically about not realizing what you have and letting it walk out the door and taking for granted who that person was. And I was like, he gets it. If he means this, he gets it. So I go back to his apartment and he like fell on his knees and started sobbing and all this histrionics about me coming back. And yeah, he left a mixtape on my windshield, but for the 4 days that I needed some space because he was an asshole to my girlfriends. Yeah.
I guess it is true.
That's true.
Is it true that you guys do a date night once a week?
No. We don't do it once a week, but we are actively dating each other, which looks a little different than a date night. Okay.
So it's funny that you phrase it that way because when people say like, what is the best marriage advice you've ever gotten? I always say that you should always date your spouse. Because at the end of the day, I truly believe you chose your spouse, right? Like you chose to love them. You chose to let them love you. And you chose to build a life together. And so at the end of the day, and it's no knock on my kids. I love my kids with my whole heart and I always will. But I chose my husband. I didn't choose my kids. I got what I got with my kids and I love them as much as I could ever love another being. Mm-hmm. But I chose my husband. The same way that like I love my parents, I love my sister, they're my family. I got what I got, they're my family. My husband, I picked. Mm-hmm. So it's one of those things where I'm like, I'm going to keep picking you by continuing to date you and appreciate you. And I think that over the 10 years that we've known each other, we've seen a growth in each other that like you can only appreciate if you're still like actively investing in your relationship, engaging with that person, and then like being able to appreciate the changes and growth that you guys have made both together and independently. And I think that that's all of the dating, right? Like that's what you do when you date someone. You get to know them and you get to like appreciate who they are and learn about them. And I'm still learning my husband all the time. Like I know who he is as a person,
right?
But I love learning him as he's continued throughout his career, throughout like just getting older, becoming a dad. Like it's fascinating. And I love it.
And the thing about me and Bert, we as empty nesters, we've had the amazing experience of kind of reconnecting. We feel like we're dating again. It just confirmed how right we were 24 years ago to fall in love, because we are best friends who are also very attracted to each other. But you can be attracted to somebody and not want to have a conversation with them.
Absolutely.
He's the first person I want to talk to. He's the first person I want to ask when I have a problem. He's the first person I want to tell when something amazing happens. And that has never changed. Even when we weren't getting along, so there were periods of time when we just were like not getting along. He still was my person. I mean, we say that all the time. You're just my person. I just wish for everybody on the planet that they could find their person. So there's nothing more fulfilling, not only in a relationship, but in yourself, to have someone look at you at warts and all again and say, you're my person forever. Ride or die, and really believe it and feel that in return for that person. I feel like, I don't know how we were smart enough to recognize it in each other and act on it. I don't know how. I don't know how that works. And you as well, that you were smart enough to go, hey, hold on.
It's that I think you're absolutely right. It's like those signs where you're just like, oh, I've never met someone that I could sit down and talk to this long and feel like, even after months of doing it, it would still feel like it was like we were almost like giddy to get to know each other even more. Mm-hmm. And that was one of those moments where you're just like, okay, this is the feeling you're supposed to have.
Yes.
The last thing that I want to just touch on is that you and Bert have a 5K coming up on May 4th in Tampa called Two Bears 5K.
Yes.
This is happening at the Bucs Stadium.
Yes, at Raymond James Stadium.
Amazing. Yes. And how can people get involved?
You can go to twobears5k.com. There's going to be a Strava set up for the Two Bears 5K, not quite yet, but it's going to be such an amazing event. And the goal of this 5K is to just get off the couch. You don't have to run it. It's not a 5K run. It's just a 5K. If it takes you 3 hours to do the 5K, at least you've started moving. And, we're just so excited about the excitement around the event. You can also walk the 5K virtually. So if you can't make it to Tampa, you can register for the virtual race, which will get you a t-shirt and a medal so that you can feel like you're participating. So
I will say a little birdie told me, aka Queen Emma, in my rundown that your team was told that Jason may or may not be participating.
I've been told he's registered.
Well, then I better get registered too.
Well, please.
I will at the very least absolutely virtually participate. We will include all of the links and necessary information throughout our content to make sure that people are aware of it and also can join. Perfect. I cannot thank you enough for coming on today. It was such a pleasure to talk. I know that I love talking to you, but I am so, so grateful that you came on the podcast, and I'm so happy to have you here at Not Gonna Lie.
Well, thank you for having me. It's so nice to see your beautiful face and your beautiful soul. And it was a great conversation.
Thank you, LeeAnn.
Until I see you next time.
Yes, absolutely. Thank you so much again to my guest, LeeAnn Kreischer, for joining me on Not Gonna Lie. Make sure to check out Bert Kreischer's special, Lucky, on Netflix, produced by the wife of the party herself, LeeAnn Kreischer. You can find even more clips from our conversation on my YouTube channel on More Shit Monday. And that's a wrap on another episode of Not Gonna Lie. I'll be back next Thursday with another special maternity leave episode of Not Gonna Lie. I'm excited for the real ones and the Kyliegers to find out who else I got a chance to talk to. In the meantime, make sure you follow us on all social media at NGL with Kylie for all the best moments from the show. We'll also be posting all sorts of new, never before seen clips throughout my maternity leave. We'd never leave you real ones hanging. Listen and subscribe wherever you get your podcasts. Subscribe to Not Gonna Lie on YouTube. Not Gonna Lie is a Wave original brought to you by Lovevery. Thanks again to the real ones for tuning in.